Wilmington Library, we're keeping the amazing events coming. Join us for an exciting February with our Voices of Power series featuring Nikki Giovanni on February 1st, Mahmoud Abdul Raouf on February 9th, Felicia Rashad on February 15th, and Slick Rick on February 23rd. Then on March 4th, join us for our annual Dancing with the Stars, featuring Tempest Bledsoe, Daryl Bell, Anthony Evans, and so many more amazing stars.
Had donuts in Wilmington, Delaware. Cliff, tell me, have you ever been to Wilmington for donuts?
Not on the weekend.
Felicia Rashad and Tempest Bledsoe are on their way back to Wilmington, and you should join them.
Well, how are you guys doing? Welcome to part one of our Voices of Power. There we go. I remember Voices of Power series. We're excited to activate our space and use our space to reflect and remember and appreciate a group of people that helped build and shape this thing that we call democracy. Yeah. Yet, there have been moments where this group has been prohibited from fully participating in it. Yeah. And the speakers and guests that we have been influential and have been activators of democracy, because democracy is meaningless if you can't find a good job, if you have an identity crisis, if you have generational curses. And so these people, whether they're poets, artists, actors, they're all part of arts and humanities and pop culture, which is utilitarian, which is didactic, which helps us to never forget where we're coming from, and hopefully, sets a path of where we should go. So, on behalf of the Wilmington Library staff, I'd like to welcome you. We're going to open up our event with Wilmington Children's Chorus. So, if you could approach the stage, appreciate it. So as they're coming up, they're going to perform. The twin poets are going to perform, and then our living legend will approach the platform, and then she will be available for book signing at the end of the event. So books are for sale to the left where I'm at. Restrooms are in the rear. Well, you'll find them. You have to wait till you get home. So let's give a round of applause for these young people that have come out and have graciously lent us their talent for a moment.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, sorry, got it. Thank you, sir. I am State Representative Nnamdi Chukwuocha. Also, thank you. And I am one half of the State of Delaware Poet Laureates, along with my twin brother, Al Mills. Unfortunately, City Council is meeting right behind us, and he's not able to be here tonight. But I have a poem that we would like to read in honor of Black History Month, and it's entitled No Home to Go Home To. And my brother, for many years, he was a probation officer for youth, and he was in court one day with Judge Chapman and a young man, a retired Judge Chapman. And the young man was basically telling Judge Chapman that just lock me up right now because I have nothing to go home to. And his mother was stealing the drugs that he was trying to sell. He owed people money, so he said it's safer for me in jail. Just lock me up right now. And my brother wrote a poem about that young man's life and about that interaction with the judge. And our writing process is that we start with the title. So he said nothing to go home to, and this was my portion of Nothing to Go Home To, and it's about the struggle for African Americans and being here in America and the continent Africa where we come from, and that not being able to find that connection. And it's a story that was told to me from a brother named Jeffrey Hart in Philadelphia. It's a true story, something that happened similar to his family member, and it's nothing to go home to. He said, Negro, you should be happy that you're here in America. He said if it wasn't for him and his fellow Christians on their civilizing missions, he said I would still be in Africa with those uncivilized savages. He said I would be there with the backward, soulless people of the world, the ones who have no history nor future. He said I should be grateful I was brought to this great land, happy to call America my home. But I know in my heart I could never really call America my home, because if this was my home, they wouldn't treat me the way they do. And if what they're saying about Africa is true, I don't want to go back there either. So I'm starting to feel like I don't got no home to go home to. Like I'm trapped in between these two lands without a home to go home to. They got me sharecropping on a piece of worthless land. And it seems like the more I make, the more they take. Season after season, a bigger balance is due. And at the end of the harvest, I got nothing to go home to. And when I thought about moving up north, you said I can't go nowhere. Said I couldn't leave till I paid you all I owe, so still ain't nothing to go home for. And my kids can't go to school like other children do. They gotta help me work in the fields because of the money I owe you. So in the eyes of my kids, thanks to you, I know coming home is no home to go home to, no home to go home to. They got me working to survive, doing odd jobs. Seems like even the salvation of my soul is being used to maintain their life of leisure. Now my heart can never explain somebody else's pain, but why would she say I raped her? Why would she say I raped her when in reality she couldn't keep her hands off me? Told me not to tell her soul, then she gonna cross me. Now they burning crosses all around town, burn my house down to the ground now. What I'm gonna do? Cause I ain't got no home to go home to. They got their dogs and their guns and they coming after me for something I ain't doing. Her heart, she know it's true. And I refuse to die for her lie, to be blamed for her shame. My wife said you can try to explain, but the truth they ain't gonna believe. They ain't gonna be happy till you hanging from one of those trees. My grandmother says, son, all you can do is run, child, please just leave. She said if you don't leave tonight, you won't live to see the morning light. So now I'm running. I know where I'm running from, but I don't know where I'm running to, because it seems like I ain't got no home to go home to. I ain't got no home to go home to, but I'm running. Running through the darkness of the woods, I'm guided by the light of my mother's face. I run into the memories of my mother's smile. I remember being taken out of my mother's arms as a child. I'm running like I'm racing against my childhood memories. I remember my grandmother telling me that I laid in the blood that spilled when my father got killed. She said, but they can never kill his spirit. She said, that's why they call you a Nnamdi, because it means your father is inside of me. That's Igbo, our native tongue, from land East Benin, where our people come from. So although it seems like I don't, I guess I really do got a home to go home to. I got a home to go home to, but I can't. I wish I could run back to those African shores, but I can't, and I run till I can't run no more. I can't run no more, but yet my mind's still running, my mind's still running. Think about my family and how much they gonna miss me as I stand on the banks of the Mississippi and I say to God that I don't know what to do. And then the face of the river became the face of God, and he smiled and said, come on home, child, you got a home to go home to. And it seems the more the river roared, the more God said he loved me. Then he stretched open his arms as if he was just waiting to hug me. And as my feet leave this loveless land, I can hear my grandmother on her knees praying, saying, precious Lord, take my baby's hand. And although it's the middle of the winter, the water was warm. And this world can't do me no harm, because now I'm in God's arms, and I know he's real because I can feel him holding me tight. As I'm carried under and away by the current of the river, I don't fight, because I know God's going to bring me home tonight. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, who's our guest? Is it Nikki Minaj or Nikki Giovanni? I got it. So the moment that you've all been waiting for, we have, I don't think this lady needs an introduction. Coming out here, Nikki Giovanni, everybody. Pay homage to the Queen. And moderating the conversation is Ms. Cyndee Landrum, Deputy Director of Institute of Museum and Library Services, my esteemed colleague. Welcome to Wilmington. Sit down.
Smile.
Turn that on.
This is on.
Yes, ma'am.
We should probably test them, don't you think?
I think yours is not on.
Okay, is mine on now?
Okay, is it on now? Testing. Testing, 1, 2. Did you press the power button?
You were on, Cyndee.
Testing.
Oh, we certainly want to thank 2 Points for that wonderful poem.
So, Miss Giovanni,
Nikki.
Nick, well, okay, I just have, can I call you Sorny Giovanni?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because,
You know, and you can introduce me, but you know what I saw today that I never thought I'd see was Kamala Harris give a decent speech. Well, we love you, AKAs. No, she was really on. I don't know if you were watching Tyree Nicholas' funeral, but I thought Kamala really stepped up and finally decided she was colored. Now you can tell who I am.
okay, so. Now, I understand that you would like to start with a poem this evening, so I'm going to give you the floor because I know that that's why we're all here, is to hear the words of the great Nikki Giovanni.
I just retired recently, And I'm about to get to the point that I don't recommend retirement. No, because everybody starts their conversation with you that now you're not working. And you don't know. I wanted to, can I use that? Yeah. It's just so it's easier for me to see. I wanted to open with a poem because they did a documentary, which it was not, my son and I have been arguing, but not argue, just, you know, he thinks he knows everything. But there's a documentary and it's called Going to Mars, the Nikki Giovanni project. And I know that some of you, not some of you, but some of us actually, may not know the poem. And that was one of the things that she wanted to discuss. Now, I didn't really have anything to do with the documentary. I was just there, and they took some pictures, you know, like people do. And I'm very, you know, thrilled about all of that. But Michelle and Joe put it together. But I was very pleased for Michelle and Joe because they won first prize at Sundance. And yeah, I'm really I'm happy, and yeah, I am. And my son's name is Thomas, so Thomas said, well, Mom, you were the canvas. I said, yeah, but they were the painters. So you have to give the painters credit. And it just goes to show, and it was mostly Michelle's creativity that decided to use this particular poem. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go use this poem because I really am tired of Earth. I don't know if you, no, you know, when the astronaut came recently, and everybody was afraid it was going to hit the Earth, and everybody's like, oh, what are we going to do? I said, you know, I work with NASA, not for. So, and it's a lot of fun working with you. You have to, and some of you are young. I like physics, and I like the idea of space, and I like what's out in space because there has to be life in space, because we really have to worry sometimes about life on Earth. And that would be another discussion. But I like oysters, and we're here in Delaware. You all get good oysters, actually. And when you think about an oyster, it's just a rock. And somebody had to decide to open it and realize there was life in the rock. Now, I don't know what made anybody decide, but we were getting ready to kill an asteroid, and we don't know what's on the side of it. We didn't even try to talk to it. We just like, let's get rid of it. But we do that to each other. We just saw that with Tyree Nichols, didn't we? And I was saying to the young man who's taking pictures here, you know, there are lots of things wrong with this case, and I do want to mention it. I do want to mention it because it was a sad funeral, and I'm a mother, and many of us in this room are mothers, and many of us are fathers, whether we know it or not. And and to lose your child, and it made me wonder. Okay, now we know that those 3 police cars came at the same time to Tyree's car. That we know. That in itself is unusual. But what we don't know yet, and many of you will be able to follow it probably better than I will, but what we don't know is that Tyree, you know, was a photographer. And he wrote, thank you for you keeping up. He wrote in his website, I want the world to see what I see. It was just a lovely, actually, a lovely thing. I want to show what I see. My question is, where is his camera? And what did he see that made 3 police cars come at the same time to beat him to death? There has to be, I know that there are videos, and I know that there's somebody else that has some, but I want to know what his camera saw. And I think we're going to have to look at that. And I know that it also is teaching us, which many of us are having to learn the hard way, it's also teaching us that racism isn't about a color. No, thank you. There's something else going on, and it's got to be addressed. And I was not laughing at our older sister, AKAs, because they're lovely people. We Deltas are the people who, in marching, of course, made it possible to get the vote. Well, you got to give us credit for that. And we did. We marched, and the AKAs are our mothers. We know that, and we're proud of you, and we're proud of Kamala, because today she did what she should have been doing all along. It's time to step up, because whatever's going on in America, you're going to have to make up your mind. It's not the color of your skin, it's who you are and what you stand up for. We're going to Mars for the same reason Marco Polo rocketed to China, for the same reason Columbus trimmed his sails on a dream of spices, for the very same reason Shackleton was in. Is it me? For the very same reason Shackleton was enchanted with penguins, for the reason we fall in love. It's our only adventure. We're going to Mars because Perry couldn't go to the North Pole without Matthew Henson, because Chicago couldn't be a city without John Baptiste DeSable, because George Washington Carver and his peanut were the right partners for Booker T. It's a life-seeking thing. We're going to Mars because whatever is wrong with us will not get right with us. So we journey forth, carrying the same baggage, but every now and then leaving one little bitty thing behind. Maybe drop torturing hunchbacks here, maybe drop lynching Billy Budd there, maybe not whipping Uncle Tom to death, maybe resisting global war. One day looking for prejudice to slip, one day looking for hatred to tumble by the wayside. One day maybe the whole community will no longer be vested in who sleeps with whom. Maybe one day the Jewish community will no longer be at rest, the Christian community will be content, the Muslim community will be at peace, and all the rest of us will get great meals on holy days and sing new songs and sing in harmony. We're going to Mars because it gives us a reason to change. If Mars came here, it would be ugly. Nations would band together to hunt down and kill Martians. And being the stupid, undeserving life forms that we are, we would also hunt down and kill what would be termed Martian sympathizers. As if fugitive slave law wasn't bad enough then, as if the so-called war on terrorism isn't bad enough now. When do we learn, and what does it take to teach us? Things cannot be what we want, when we want, as we want. Other people have ideas and inputs, and why won't they leave wrapped round alone? The future is ours to take. We're going to Mars because we have the hardware to do it. We have the rockets and the fuel and the money and the stuff. And the only reason NASA is holding back is they don't know if what they send out will be what they get back. So let me slow this down. Mars is 1 year of travel to get there, plus 1 year of living on Mars, plus 1 year to return to Earth, equals 3 years of Earthlings, being in a tight space, going to an unknown place with an unusual and unsure welcome awaiting them. Tired muscles, unknown and unusual foods, harsh conditions, and no known landmarks to keep them human. Only a hope and a prayer that they will be shadowed beneath a benign hand. And there is no historical precedent for that except this. The trip to Mars can only be understood through Black Americans, I say. The trip to Mars can only be understood through Black Americans. The people who were captured and enslaved immediately recognized the people who chained and whipped them and herded them into ships so tightly packed there was no room to turn, no privacy to respect, no tears to fall without landing on another. We're not kind and gentle and concerned for the state of their souls, no. The men with whips and chains were understood to be killers, feared to be cannibals, known to be sexual predators. The captured knew they were in trouble in an unknown place without communicable abilities with a violent and capricious species. But they could look out and still see signs of home. They could still smell the sweetness of the air. They could still see the clouds floating above the land they loved. But there reached a point where the captured could not only not look back, but they had no idea which way back might be. There was nothing in the middle of the deep blue water to indicate which way home might be. And it was that moment when a decision had to be made. Do they continue forward with a resolve to see this thing through, or do they embrace the waters and find another world? In the belly of the ship, a moan was heard. and someone picked up that moan, and a song was raised, and that song would offer comfort and hope and tell the story. When we go to Mars, it's the same thing. It's middle passage. When the rocket red glares, the astronauts will be able to see themselves pull away from Earth. As the ship goes deeper and deeper, they will see a sparkle of blue. And then one day, they will not only not see Earth, they won't know which way to look. And that's why NASA needs to call Black America. They need to ask us, how did you calm your fears? How were you able to decide you were human, even when everything said you were not? How did you find the comfort in the face of the improbable to make the world you came to your world? How was your soul able to look back and wonder? And we will tell them what to do. To successfully go to Mars and back, you will need a song. Take some Billie Holiday for the sad days and some Charlie Parker for the happy ones. But always keep at least one good spiritual for comfort. You will need a slice or two of meatloaf and, if you can manage it, some fried chicken in a shoebox with a nice, moist lemon pound cake. A bottle of beer, because no one should go that far without a beer, and maybe a six-pack, so if there is life on Mars, you can share. Popcorn for the celebration when you land, while you wait on your legs to kick in. And as you climb down the ladder from your spaceship to the Martian surface, look to your left, and there you'll see a smiling Black community quilting a black-eyed pea, watching you descend. In 6 months I'll be 80, so I have it right there.
So first of all, I want to say that one of the things about a Nikki Giovanni poem is that there are many layers to that poem, and literally every question I wrote could be asked about that poem or within the context of that poem. But I want to go back to the documentary because I think I'm Team Thomas on this one and say the congratulations are in order. You know, there was a critique of the documentary, and it was in the Hollywood Reporter, and I thought this was an interesting quote. It said, the documentary undoubtedly succeeds in its spotlighting the poet's blazing personality. I think we saw that. Her unwavering confidence and her commitment to community without ever sacrificing herself. But when you think about the documentary, what do you want the viewer to take away from that project?
Well, I haven't seen it yet. And, I guess I will someday. I'm not good at looking at myself like that. And so eventually I will. But I've been working with a young man, and I really have fallen in love with him. He's a great, for those of you who are jazz fans, and I know there's some in the room, Javon Jackson. And he worked with Art Blakey. He was the youngest tenor saxophonist with Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. And Javon and I have been working together. Javon went to Sundance. I don't go that far. I mean, Utah's way too far to go. So I didn't go anyway. But Javon wanted to see more jazz. He wanted, as he said, he looks at me musically, whereas Joe and Michelle looked at me poetically, I guess is the term, whereas my friend Jenny, who's sitting over there, looks at me emotionally. So putting them together, we're all going to sit down so that Javon can put his input, because he thought that the music needs to be different. I don't know that. As I said, I'm just sitting there, I'm going to be drinking a glass of champagne and going, and, whatever it is that they do. But I guess what I hope that anybody takes from any of my work, and that's a poem I really love though, is you got to read and you've got to know something, and then you've got to ask yourself, well, how did that happen, or what are we? As I wanted to start today, because today was the funeral of a young man. Where's his camera? And I think for those of us who write, or for those of us who function even academically, we want to know, we know where the videos are. Now, they haven't shown them to all of us, but we know that, but where is his camera? And I think that that's something that needs to be looked at, because there's something else going on. It just doesn't make sense that accidentally 3 police cars would show up. And I'm not against the police. You know, the black community needs police, and everybody knows that. It's another longer discussion. But that just doesn't happen. 3, nothing shows up. It just doesn't happen. So we have to figure out how and why. And so it's that kind of thing. So you say, what do I hope that they get? I hope that people remember to keep asking, why did that happen? Because you hear things, they tell you things, and then you're supposed to believe them. And 90% of the time, it's just not true. It doesn't make sense. You know, it's like, what is his name? That white guy in California, rich man that murdered his wife and son. You know, he stabbed them to death. You talk about stupid. Well, I think it's mad, but he stabs them to death, then calls the police and says, they're dead. I turned them over, and there's not a drop of blood on him. Not a drop of blood. He got a white T-shirt on. He's a dumb son of a bitch. That's one of the dumbest things. And you know, you see that everybody knows. You know, that's ridiculous. So quite naturally, you keep asking yourself, and I think keeping up as best we can. Most of us do do social media somehow. I don't do social media. I don't do Facebook, and I just don't do any of it because it depresses you. And if you're young, especially, one of the reasons suicide for teenagers has gone up is that they listen to, what is that thing? Tweet. TikTok.
Sorry, it doesn't matter. TikTok, whatever.
I know. But they believe what they're hearing. So their friends are saying, oh, I went to a great party last night. Or their boyfriends, oh, I had great sex last night. Well, if they did, why are they calling you? You know, none of that makes sense. And the kids need to be, if I may, in libraries and off Facebook. They need to be.
So, Sora, you talk about libraries, and you just had a new children's book come out called A Library, and you launched it with one of my favorite librarians, Dr. Carla Hayden, the 14th Librarian of Congress. And as I said, you are very layered. And one of the things I thought was interesting, of course, it's about libraries, so as a librarian, I love it. But you talked about the fact that one of the reasons that you wrote the book was because of this idea of Mulvaney Street being erased and the legacy and people's memory being erased. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that, and in the context of the fact that in many communities we see that erasure through development in other ways, and how do you think that we can ensure that those communities, those memories, those people aren't lost to quote-unquote progress?
Well, first, the advantage, if I may, and it's not that everybody has to be black, but it helps. But one of the things, it does. But one of the ways that when we were not allowed to read and write, when actually you could easily have been blinded if you had been reading. But one of the things we did is we passed it along through the spirituals. And there's just nothing like knowing the spirituals. And as I said, I was just laughing at it, but I just retired, but I taught for 35 years at Virginia Tech, which I really love. I enjoy teaching. Thank you. But one of the things I was saying to my students is that I could always, and I still can, you can always tell the kids who went to church from the kids who didn't. It's the easiest thing in the world, because the kids who went to church can talk. That's the truth. I mean, any of you who are school teachers, you know that. The kids who went to church can stand up and make a clear sentence that makes sense. The kids that didn't go to church mumble. And so I would urge, go to church. Now, I'm not trying to do anybody's religion, because none of my business, and whatever God makes you comfortable. But go someplace that you have to stand up on Mother's Day, Father's Day, Aunt Day, Uncle Day, Dog Day, Cat Day. You get in the habit of and you know you have to do it because your grandmother told you. Yeah. You know today is Auntie Day. Now what you gonna do? And so you know you're gonna do something because she told you that you had to do it, and that helps you love the Word. Because if we don't have anything else left, we have the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and we have to keep that in mind. We all do, because words are that's what's gotten us to these 200 and something years. That's what's gotten us. And of course, the spirituals kept the Word and the story. And you know, it's really amazing. I've been watching, of course, we all have the fires in California, and you know, God's gonna set this world on fire. Yes, yes. And these people said that 200 years ago. They didn't even know California existed, probably. And I think it's funny, and you have to say to yourself, oh, now were they just, you know, what made them decide that God's going to set the, I mean, because it's a wonderful thing to be a black American, because we have a great history here, and we have to keep it going. We really do. And I think that passing that word along, that there are other things that's going to happen, you know. Everybody say, oh, you fall in love, and oh, I hate that. Don't you hate an opinion? And oh, if I was you, I wouldn't put up with, well, you ain't. So but you're still passing a word along. You're passing a story along. You're saying to somebody what you can do, or what you think you can do, or what you know, whether it's good or not. And you keep it in your heart, and you might be in your 70s before there are some things that you remember that all of a sudden it comes back to you, and you say, oh, and then you can write about it. There are things that I couldn't write a good cry at 50. At just 50, and 50 is, you can tell I'm getting old because I say things like 50 is a just. And I had a friend who passed recently, and he was just 96. So you can see what's happening to me. You're like, oh no, they're so young. but you keep passing it along, you keep remembering, and what you remember that you can pass along is still going to be a word, and that word is going to be important. But if I would urge anybody to do anything, I would urge libraries, and then I would urge, of course, church. I'm not trying to get into your business, but that's how we pass things along. And I went to, my grandmother's church was, we're AME, and and Baptist, you know, between the two. And so, you know, I was going to say, you learned that. You went to church, and you went to church on time. And that was another thing. You did not go to church late. But if you were on time, you got, in my case, I got a quarter. So I had to put a nickel in Sunday school. And then I had a nickel to go with my friends, and I don't have a lot, but a couple. We would go to Carter Robertson. For those of you who know Knoxville, we would go to Carter Robertson and get ice cream. But you had to be back on time, or you wouldn't get another when you got back. And then you sat down and you listened. Some of the things Reverend James said didn't make sense. That's the truth. You know, you wonder, you know, like, come on now, give me, you know, he's using a lot of it, and you hear him a lot. You're hearing the Old Testament a lot. I happen to be a fan of the New Testament because I like Jesus. And, you know, I know that Jesus didn't love everybody. I know everybody, oh, Jesus loved you. No, he didn't. He didn't. I mean, all you have to do is read your New Testament. You know, Jesus was mad at his father. Jesus was mad at Joseph before he was born because Joseph wouldn't give Mary cherries, remember? And when Mary said to Joseph, you know, can I have some cherries? You know, would you get me? And Joseph was angry because he was an old man who wanted a virgin. That'd be another discussion. And he did. And he did. That's what he did. And he said, let the father of your child. Remember, let the father of your child give you cherries. And Jesus was mad for he's not even born. And he said, bend down the tallest tree so my mother can have. And the tallest tree bent down. And so Joseph knew, oh, I'm dealing with something a little different here. They were never close. You know, he didn't like those people in the temple who were changing money. It's a lot of people he didn't like. And everybody's trying to say, oh, Jesus liked them. He didn't. And so you have to be a little better person. If you want him to like you, you have to do a little better than just sitting around all the time being an asshole. You have to do, you know, you have to do a little better. I just thought I'd mention that.
My grandmother used to tell us all the time, you know, you should love everybody, but you can't like them all. Yeah. That's how she lived to be 101. So hey, you know. But you talked about church, and you mentioned spirituals quite a bit, and you also have a new album out of spirituals, and we get to experience Nikki Giovanni, the singer, singing Nina Simone, who I know was your dear friend. And so, you know, I was just wondering, what does that album represent to you as an artist, and how did it feel to sing Nina Simone's great song, Night Song?
Well, I've probably shown every artist in the world that you don't have to know what you're doing. But it's Javon. We're back to Javon Jackson. Javon said he was doing an album, and he wondered, we had met, and he said, I'm doing an album, and we both love spirituals. Javon named that album. I didn't, because he asked me, send him some spirit. I sent him 12, but I said to Javon, the one song that I really want on this album is Night Song, because Nina Simone was a dear friend and a wonderful, really, human being, just a wonderful person. And I said, I would like to sing Night Song for Nina. And I know I'm not a singer, so I don't fool myself, but I know a lot of people are not singers, and they do. That's the truth.
No shade.
No, I wanted to sing that for Nina, and you know, Javon is really sweet, so he was like, yeah, you whatever you want, you know. So that's the only time that I'm ever says Nikki Giovanni vocalist. But I can carry a tune, but I can't go from the bridges to back to, you know, I can't do those things that singers can do. But I thought it was important. One, Night Song is such a beautiful song, and I think that what Nina loved so much about that song was the last line, which says, "Where do I belong?" Because Nina was, she wasn't lost, but she just never could fit in. I mean, I think that all of us who knew her wanted to be a good sister and a good friend, but there was no way to make that work for Nina. And so we lost, as we lost Whitney, you know, we lost some really wonderful people because they can't fit in, which is, again, why you go to church, and you go to the church that agrees with you. You don't go to church that tells you where you're wrong, what you're doing wrong. And, you know, I'm a single mother, so I don't want to hear any crap about, you know, you ought to be married. I ought to be what I am, which was a single mother. And, you know, you just, it's hard to find your place and decide that I'm happy. And so that's why I wanted to do that. But we got nominated. This is I think, you know, I don't know what's going on in my life, but we got nominated for the NAACP award for that. And so I'm really, I'm thrilled about it because Javon's never been nominated for. I have 7 NAACP Image Awards. So, and I'm very proud of that. But Javon is very excited, and of course the awards are in California. So I said when he called and said, you know, we've been nominated. I said, we were not nominated, Javon. You were nominated. And it's in California, and if I couldn't walk to California, I'm not going. And since I can, I'm not. It's too far. All you do, you sit on the plane goes bounce. And no. So he'll go out for that, and I really hope that he wins because he's the musician. I just wanted to sing that one song for Nina, and I like to think that Nina is sitting up in heaven saying, I knew that girl couldn't sing. I tried to tell her, write poetry, but she didn't listen, so... You know.
And for those who don't know, the album is called The Gospel, according to Nikki Giovanni. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
And of course, she has preached, so you know, it is the gospel. And,
you can look up Nina, by the way. That thing, Google. Yeah, you can Google Nina and get Night Song. And you can hear her. She's done several versions, but you'll be able to hear her on one of them. And it's really, yeah, I mean, you'll see why that was kind of important to me. A lot of people don't know her, and they should, because Nina was a very important part, of course, of the civil rights movement. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily know that. And I just wanted to do, all I have are words, so I just wanted to give the words I had.
I have one more question. You know, my boss, Mr. Director Rahman, he has me on time, and he gave me a set amount of time that I could have this conversation. But I have one more question. So there was going back about 20 years, you wrote a poem called Black History. And the line that strikes me, particularly in the context of today, is if Black History Month is not viable, and then there's just a beautiful imagery of the natural environment that inspires this idea that Black history is natural to us, it should be. And I was wondering, what was your prompt for writing that poem at that time? It was 2002, 2001. And then given the current environment now, if you were to write that poem, would you write a different poem or the same poem?
I'm sure, well, I'm 79 years old, so you're going to look at, and I recommend that, by the way, but you're going to look at things differently. To tell you the truth, I don't know why I wrote that poem. And no, I don't. And I try not, and I'll say that to all of the writers in the room. Write where you are now and go on. And do yourself a favor. Don't reread yourself. Write the next one and go on. You will contradict yourself, by the way. At some point, there will be a contradiction. Don't worry about that, because it just means you're growing. And so Black History Month is important, and as I opened, and I did want to say that today, to have Tyree's funeral at the church where Martin gave his last speech 55 years ago, 2 blocks from the Lorraine Hotel, there was something wonderful. One of the preachers, if you watch the funeral, if you get a chance to, I know they're going to, CNN was running it today, but they'll keep running it. But one of the, I guess he's not a preacher, I don't know, everybody has their own church and what they call themselves. But he was talking about what you leave behind. And he used a briefcase. I thought it was a beautiful image. I'm going to steal it. He had left his briefcase in a room, and everybody thought he had gone. And so the person who was cleaning up the room saw it, and by that time he came back. The preacher came back, and the guy said, "I thought you had left it." He said, "No, if I left it, I left something behind. You know, I'm going to come and get it." And Tyree he's gone. His body is gone, but he's left behind not only a great mother and stepfather, but a baby boy, and he's left behind this image that coincides, and they can't be coincidental. 55 years. This is something that, especially you youngsters in the room, you have to think, well, why Memphis, Tennessee, 55 years ago, did this happen at this time? And this is something that you will study and that you'll look at and question yourself. All I know about any of it is that it's important not to let somebody take away from you what you know. And so one of the things that I said to us today that I'm going to continue to say, of course, because all I have are words, is I want Tyree's camera. We know that there is a camera, and we know that there's something on it. We have to keep asking about that. We have to keep asking about that. And so, you know, that's what you do as a writer. So I don't know what I would write today about Martin, for that matter, or anything else. I know it's a good idea to be alive. I recommend that. I know it's a good idea to find some joy in your life, and I certainly recommend that. I happen to have had the pleasure of seeing Zimmerman shot, that boy that Zimmerman shot, Trayvon Martin. And his wife came to speak at Virginia Tech. And somebody asked her, well, how can you, it was a stupid question, so y'all won't ask me anything like that. how can you go around and give speeches and try to give hope? She said, well, if I didn't find some reason to keep going, she was saying, because she and her girlfriends go out once a month or so. She said, if I didn't find a way to keep going, Zimmerman would have killed 2 of us. And I thought that was really, really brave and wonderful. And I was so glad that that we begin to recognize Emmett Till's mother. Now, Emmett was murdered in the same way, but Mamie Till, if she hadn't opened that casket, it would have been a whole different thing. So we just all keep doing what we can do, and don't let people take away from you what you know, and don't assume, oh, because nobody will publish it or nobody wants to read it. None of that. It's not about what other people know. It's what you know, and you put it down, or you put it in a song, or you put it someplace, and then you share it as best you can. It's all about saying yes. It's all about, somebody says, well, will you come to the library? Yes. Will you go to church? Yes. Will you go to the community centers? Yes. Will you come to my kindergarten class? Yes. It's all about sharing what you have to share, because we never know what a leader is. We never know what you're going to be able to do to take it forward. Yeah.
So I want to say to you that I know you said all you have is words, but I think you have very important words of liberation, words of resilience, and words of love. And so I wanted to thank you for your time this evening. And my boss has told me that I have some housekeeping to take care of. Is that correct? Oh, Jamar.
Thank you, Soror Delta. all the Deltas in the house, stand, please. On behalf of the Wilmington, Delaware Alumni Chapter, we're 300 plus strong. We are so grateful to have our Soror Nikki Giovanni with us today, and thank you for your words. We love you, and we're so glad you came to Wilmington. Thank you very much. Another good too. Thank you very much.
Thank all of you, and thank all of our mothers, AKA, and our little sisters. Everybody needs, I was talking about Nina, but everybody needs somebody to lean on. Yes. And that's one of the things that our sorority, not just, but that we do, that the sorority does. You know, and everybody in the sorority you're not going to like. I'm not going to like.
That's true. That's true.
But you're going to find a couple that you do, that when you need a laugh or when you need somebody to talk to, they're going to be there. And that's what it provides for them. And I think that's the only thing that's important.
Thank you very much.
So we're going to allow Ms. Giovanni to get settled in the other room for the book signing, and we're going to conclude our program with the young burgeoning talent in Delaware, Mr. Derin Felder.
Oh, that's right.
Provided by Delta, Janelle Bowman. So thank you very much.
So at this time, we're going to ask everyone to remain seated while we get ready for the book signing. So just remain seated and give Ms. Nikki Giovanni another round of applause. companion? Well, I got you. I'll bring it over. I'll bring it over, yeah. It's on you. Yeah.
Give my phone. Good evening, everybody. All right. My name is Derin Felder, burgeoning poet. It's a pretty good introduction. Miss Nikki Giovanni said, right where you are and go on. You know, it kind of resonated with me. So I wrote this poem in response to what happened in 2020 with George Floyd. And I still see how now it's still impactful today with Tyree Nichols. So I'm gonna take it back to 2020 and right where I was and bring it here. I'm really not trying to be hearing that you tired. If you ain't got melanin, you can't tell me I'm too biased. That's why I'm not judging the people who do riot, because I watch who's vocal and pay attention to who's quiet. Our pain has to be felt. We're playing the cards that were naturally dealt. A knee to his neck and he's asking for help. They got the nerve to blame his death on disastrous health. That in itself is crazy. This is why Kaepernick knelt. Man, we some peaceful protesters. What's the confusion? You got a problem with our methods, then come with solutions. White supremacists will flex their guns and go shoot them. We still got nooses around our necks and none of them loosened. Yo, I'm just sending a message. Do what I can to be ending oppression. Can't give us an answer without comprehending the questions. You shouldn't have a single issue attending our sessions. It's been an arrest and extending the lessons. Systemic racism. What was his plan for change? He ran the game for reasons even he can't explain. We finally got him out of office. Yo, this man's insane. Captain Orange didn't start it, but he fanned the flames. He's spraying people as if that's the thing to do. We ain't having it. Your own cabinet don't bang with you. So if you serious about the black experience, well, here it is. We've been dealing with 400 years of this. I mean, I can't rock with somebody carrying hate with them. We can't change racism, but we can change the race system. From all the 50 states, we really can't afford to quit the race. We're making headway with a quickened pace. Apply pressure until we complete the assignment. We won't be silenced, either with the knee or the Heimlich. The type of people he is aligned with seem to be blinded. If we don't feed his ego, we're seen as being defiant. We're not kneeling for likes, there's meaning behind it. He is reminded, and to my mind you will find there's a genius inside it. I'm not the best to speak when the time hits, but you can't deny it. Derin is beast when he rhymes it. Hold on. Not done no professional flows, I'm letting them know. Well past stepping on toes, cause my people ain't dealing with X's and O's. We gotta understand the moments to reprimand opponents, cause the new Karen is Candace Owens. Ooh, hey yo, I'm not threat giving a set tripping. But let's listen, Turtle bringing heat until you know this MF spitting. I'm gonna be drilling bars till the 3 officers feel the charge. Brianna's killers are still at large. Enough is enough. Look at what they did to us. If we ain't fisticuffs, it better be a black fist is up. I am not at all saying that every cop's villainous. But even if you're not feeling us, stop killing us. Thank you.
Great words, brother, much needed words as well. So if we could have anyone who wants to purchase a book for the book signing, if you could form a line against the side wall to the left of me, and then proceed to the reference area to have your book signed and have a brief conversation with Ms. Giovanni. Thank you.
take it over.
Oh.
Hold on. Yes.
And his mic.
Here, wait.
It's a new year, and here at the Wilmington Library, we're keeping the amazing events coming. Join us for an exciting February with our Voices of Power series featuring Nikki Giovanni on February 1st, Mahmoud Abdul Rauf on February 9th, Felicia Rashad on February 15th, and Slick Rick on February 23rd. Then on March 4th, join us for our annual Dancing with the Stars, featuring Tempest Bledsoe, Daryl Bell, Anthony Evans, and so many more amazing stars.
Had donuts in Wilmington, Delaware. Cliff, tell me, have you ever been to Wilmington for donuts?
Not on the weekend.
Felicia Rashad and Tempest Bledsoe are on their way back to Wilmington, and you should join them.